Hey, it's John with Vision Advisors. Welcome to another Insight with Vision. We want to take a few minutes in this episode and revisit the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 rule. Haven't heard of the 80-20 rule? Let me introduce you to the man behind the Pareto principle. Let me introduce you to Vilfredo Pareto. Born in 1848, Pareto was an Italian engineer. He was also a sociologist, he was an economist, and he was a philosopher, and he would use his skill set and was really focused on one thing, and that was being a student of cause and effect. He was passionate, almost to the point of obsessed with understanding efficiencies, especially when it came to income production and income distribution. These were areas that he spent a lot of time and energy researching throughout his life. Now, one of the things he noticed when he was doing some observations in Italy was that 80% of Italy's producing land was owned by a mere 20% of its population. So essentially, 20% of Italy was feeding 80% of the populace. Now, further observations as he began to look at this, Pareto found that the same 80-20 percentages as an efficiency model played out in various industries, in various types of production, and in general commerce. Thus was born the Pareto principle, known initially as the Pareto principle of efficiency. It essentially said 80% of your results are generated by 20% of your efforts. Let me give you an example. 80% of your sales as a financial professional come from around 20% of your customers. 80% of your profits or revenues in your business come from a mere 20% of the activities that you engage in on a daily basis. And 80% of your total production, all of the things that you do to make things happen, come from 20% of the people that are involved and 20% of the activities involved in making that production happen. Thus was born the Pareto principle, or what we today call the 80-20 rule. Now, as a financial professional, how do we apply the 80-20 rule, and what can we learn from that? You know, initially, there's three questions that you should be asking yourself as it relates to efficiency. If you want to be more efficient, thus being more effective in your business, I believe there's three specific questions that you should be asking yourself. The first is this: if 80% of your revenue in your business comes from 20% of your customers, how do you attract more of those 20% customers? In other words, who is your ideal customer? Now, this is going to require some reflective thinking on your part and maybe taking some time to dig into looking at who your ideal customer is. It may mean going back through your tax return or going through your QuickBooks file to look at what customers are generating the results that are essentially running your practice. What are the common denominators? Age, demographics, married, single, male, female, income amount, assets that they may own, common goals, common strategies, common hobbies. Are there unique things that you can find about your ideal customer that you can qualify and quantify that can help you create a picture of who that ideal customer is? The second question you should be asking yourself as it relates to the 80-20 principle is this: if 80% of those you're engaging with come from a mere 20% of all of the marketing activities you do on a daily basis, what 20% of your marketing activities should you be doing again and again and again? In other words, how are you reaching your ideal client, and how do we replicate those results over and over? The third question you should be asking yourself as it relates to the 80-20 rule is this: if 80% of your daily success comes from 20% of your daily activities, why are you spending more time doing the 80% of things that don't help and not spending more time doing the 20% of things that actually create the revenue that can grow your practice? In other words, what's making you money and why aren't you doing more of it? You know, I love Einstein's definition of insanity. He said it's this: it's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome or a different result. You know, it's like when you get stuck in the mud. When you get stuck in a rut, you don't keep giving it gas, because all you're doing there is spinning your tires and sinking yourself deeper and deeper into the mud. When you're stuck in a rut, you've got to do something different. And if you want your practice to become better, to become more efficient and more effective and grow so that you can see more success, you've got to get out of the rut you're in, and you've got to do something different. You know, I recently heard a story of a gentleman that was bragging about the fact that he went from being a startup in a large corporation, working in the mailroom, gathering the mail when it came in and sorting that all day long, to eventually becoming the CEO of a major company. But as he began to look at the results of what he was bringing to the table as the CEO, those results were lackluster. He was not seeing the results he wanted, and his team and his company was not growing as fast as he desired. So he hired a productivity specialist to come in, and when that coach sat down with him and began to evaluate and look at his priorities, here's what they found. He was still in the mailroom. This CEO was spending over 3 hours of productive time during the day that he could be driving activities that would make the company money, and he was in his inbox managing his email. He was still in the mailroom, but he was just being paid more money to deal with mail. Rather than doing what was making the company money, he was doing administrative functions that should have been passed off to someone else. You know, Black Belt leadership says that time management is the great divider between the successful and the unsuccessful. My mentor, John Maxwell, says the secret to your success is found in your daily routine. So when we apply the 80-20 rule to your practice, there's really 3 questions you've got to answer. Number 1, who's your ideal client? Who is that client that if you can get in front of them, you're going to connect what you bring to the table, or the issues and the pain and the problems they're looking to have you solve? Who is that ideal client? Secondly, how are you getting in front of that ideal client, and what can you replicate to get in front of more ideal clients, just like the ones you're working with now? And then thirdly, what's making you money, and why aren't you doing more of that? You know, I was talking with some producers this week as we were looking at how do we help in this new year producers grow and expand their practice. Well, for many of them, their idea is to cast a bigger net. Rather than doing 3,000 pieces for a dinner mailer, let's do 5,000, and let's get more bodies in the seat. Instead of doing an email campaign where I'm going to do 1,000 emails a month to try to generate leads that are coming into a landing page, let's do 2,000 a month. Let's do 3,000 a month. Let's do more activity to try to create better results. Well, as we can see from the 80-20 rule, that's not the best and most efficient way to make things happen. So rather than you casting a wider net in a broad ocean, more mailers, more outreach, more, why not narrow your focus? And instead of doing more, focus on less. Now, what do I mean by that? Again, rather than casting a wider net in a broad ocean, why don't you cast your net in the bay where the fish you want to catch actually reside? Take the time to identify your ideal customer. Take the time to identify the methodology that is reaching them with your message and the medium that they are best responding to, and do more of that. And at the same time, eliminate from your day those distractions that are taking you away from doing what can make you more money. And what does that mean? That means that you have to identify your unique message and your value proposition and tailor that message specifically to your ideal audience. Rather than broaden your focus to try to reach more people, narrow your focus to reach the specific people that want and need what you are bringing to the table. Now you're going to have an opportunity to see better results because you're going to be getting in front of the quality prospects that want and need what you have. Now, once you've tailored your message to the ideal audience, you then have to tailor your marketing to reach them where they are, to identify what methodology you can use to take that message and deliver it, whether that is direct mail, whether that is email marketing, whether that is dinner seminars, it is adult education, it is an online workshop, it is a referral-based program, whatever it may be, identify that and put that to work for you. Now, another area I want to talk about in terms of applying the 80-20 rule comes from my mentor, John Maxwell. And John says this. He says, if someone on your team can do something 80% as well as you can, let them do it. That way you can focus on the 20% of things that you do best that can bring you the greatest results. But how many of us still find ourselves checking the email in the middle of the day when we should be belly to belly with the consumer, or doing things that someone on our staff should be doing, or maybe we've gotten so tight with our money and we've capped our ability to grow because we won't make that investment in an administrative assistant or a staff member that can take those 80% of the mundane things off of you so that you can focus on the 20% of things that can bring you the greatest results. And that's an opportunity to grow your practice. So as we apply the 80-20 rule, one of the things that's going to be very important for you is that you put systems in place, that you have a first appointment process that is efficient, it is effective, and it is something that you can replicate over and over. Same with your second appointment, same with delivery and follow-up, and same with next steps. After you deliver a policy, what are the next steps for next sell, upsell, cross-sell, getting referrals, opportunity to do annual reviews to stay engaged with that client so you stay top of mind. And then secondly, you need to automate your activities. If you don't have a client management system or a database, you need one. Because how in the world are you going to know when your clients' anniversaries are, when their birthdays are, when it's time to do an annual review? If those things are not being noted in a CRM, how can you effectively continue to serve your ideal client in such a way that you become referable and you have the opportunity to maximize your relationship with them? You need to automate your activities to a calendar that's going to remind you of your appointments, your first appointments, your second appointments, time blocked off in the office to be able to work on case prep, case design. One of the things we're recommending for producers is that they disconnect their landline to the traditional hardwired line and go with a decentralized VoIP internet-based phone system. RingCentral, Grasshopper, and other automated resources will allow a phone to ring in your office and at the same time ring on your cell phone so that no matter where you are, your staff can reach you and your clients can reach you and you are available 24/7. We also recommend that you automate your follow-up process, whether it is a drip system by mail, by email, by phone, or a combination of all of those, that part of that becomes part of your calendar and you use technologies to automate that process. I just spoke with a producer today that is in the process of putting together an automated campaign that every time they finish a sale with a client and they enter their information into their CRM, they're also going to enter that client's information into a marketing tool that over the next 20 days will send 10 follow-up emails to that client with different follow-up messages so that they stay engaged. They present opportunities for follow-up, for next step, for referral, for additional engagement, and it automates the process. It does it automatically so you don't have to. Another important thing in making the most out of the 80-20 rule is hire a staff person. Again, remember, that staff person needs to be able to come in and do the 80% of the things that you don't need to be doing that are taking away from your opportunity to do what you're best at. And that's getting belly to belly in front of a consumer and having an opportunity to do a first appointment, a second appointment, or a delivery, or an annual review, and the opportunity there to ask for referrals. So remember this, staff, systems, and automation can do much of the 80% of things that have to happen in your office, but don't make you money per se. But the big thing is getting your staff, your systems, and your automations to do the 80% lets you focus on the top 20% of your money-making activities. Now, we've talked about a lot in this 80-20 rule, and as you think about your practice, maybe at this point you're going, Oh my goodness, John, I have no idea where to start trying to figure this out and putting things in place to help me see greater success, more efficiency, and more effectiveness in the way I run my practice. Well, guess what? That's what we do. If you need help, let me encourage you to schedule a strategy session with us right here at Vision Advisors. We would welcome the opportunity to lend our expertise, to share with you what we know other successful producers are doing, to introduce you to tools, technologies, and resources that can help you gain the efficiencies that you need, that we can sit down with you and do a deep dive into your practice, help you identify your ideal client and build metrics around that so that the marketing that you are doing actually engages with those ideal prospects. We can share with you different ways to do that. And as we identify and help you look at what's worked in the past, we can help you build upon that success to see even more. At Vision Advisors, we're much more than an IMO that brings great product. We are an IMO that invests in you, not just with money, but with time, with resources, and with expertise that can help you grow your practice and see greater success. Hey, I look forward to an opportunity to have a conversation with you here at Vision Advisors. Melissa, Gary, Melissa, and April, they're here to help as well. Give us a call at 1-800-505-8489. Let us know how we can help you continue to grow your practice and see success. This is John Terry with Vision Advisors. Thanks for joining us today.